from the BoD studio. It is Playin and Slayin, episode 79. That was a good year, 79. Right, Josh?
Sure.
Yeah. Troy, 79, good year?
I was 12.
12, nice.
Probably not playing D&D, just on the cusp.
Oh.
Little did Troy know he would
Little-
soon be introduced to D&D.
So 79, not as good a year as like 80,
Mm,
81,
Yep.
82.
When I started to dip my toe in the 1980, 81.
Excellent. Well, on tonight's episode, we are not, in fact, talking about years that were good. We are going to talk about our usual banter, what we've been playing, hobbying, kickstarting, all that jazz. Get into a bit of a library discussion, and then a couple just questions to guide. I don't know what we want to call it, like a banter adjacent main topic, where we'll talk through a few questions we pose and get kind of each of our opinions, but likely land on a little bit of Frosthaven. Not quite a deep dive, but let's call it a Frosthaven episode, just so we can get the algorithm 2 years after.
It
would have
still
been a
might
good
work.
idea.
If I put a logo on it, it might work on YouTube. Who knows? It'll
The
trend.
thumbnail, yeah. But before we get into all of that, when you're playing and slaying, it is important to stay hydrated. So what are we drinking tonight? Josh, you can start with your, I'm assuming, NA choice.
Gatorade Zero.
Whoa.
I need to be more hydrated today, so
Product
Gatorade.
placement.
Yeah, we're energy or athletic drinking it here. There. Now you can't see what it is.
Yeah, we got to wrap it with
It's athletic drink.
Yep.
Orange athletic drink.
Cool. What is it? What's zero about it?
It's no calories.
No calories. Oh, okay. No calories. Not like.
Or it's 0 everything except
So
for sodium.
That's because the electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Love
not,
it.
Okay. Not unleaded Gatorade. Okay.
Unleaded Gatorade.
Yum.
Won't cause cavities. Troy, what are you drinking?
No, just psych.
Psych.
Not a white. Well, I do have a white monster over there, but I have Cosmic Tide, Mexican lager with lime from Hacienda Beer Company, which is in Door County, up there in Bailey's Harbor area. I think it's like adjacent to Door County Brewing Company, or like their other name brand that's in there. Really good summer beer. Again, a little bit of that lime in there, light lager. Really good. I had one over the weekend and I'm like, oh, this is going to be the podcast beer because it's pretty good.
Nice.
How about you, Ty?
I'm drinking an Ecto Cooler.
Nice.
From Eagle Park. Very tasty beverage. It's not a beer. It's
it's not a beer.
It's a seltzer.
It is really close to what Josh is drinking.
It's five and a half.
I know it is, but it tastes a lot like what Josh is drinking. It's like so sweet. It's good, but it's definitely
it really does taste just like the old Ecto Cooler Kool-Aid, and it looks like it too. They added like the green dye. Can't see that in the can, but
it is a unique. You guys have exposed me to that, and it is definitely a unique experience to drink one of those. But I think it's like I have one, I think, in the fridge. I'm waiting for the like nice, super hot, like go to the beach day that feels like an awesome drink to pull out of the cooler, sitting on the beach, and
absolutely. So that's what we're drinking. In just a moment, we're going to get into the banter.
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
All right. What are we playing? Looks like a decent list here. Troy, I'm going to let you kick it off because I'm curious. I saw the show notes. I added some commentary, and I want to know
more. I will start with John, Ben, and I played Nemesis Lockdown because there is a whatever electronic version of the board game available on Steam that a while ago when it came out we bought. And we felt like wanted to punish ourselves, and we're like, let's just lose the game completely and play Lockdown, and it was good. I can't remember what was the motivator, but we did that. Although I think it was good because I mean, you know how like some of the voices I did turn on a turn counter or a turn timer where you only had like 2 minutes. I should have made it a little longer because I screwed myself too. But like 2 minutes to make your turn, and there was a couple times when indecision gets and basically like your turn's over, like that's it. Like it's not like you just pass because in Nemesis you play like 2 cards and then your actions pass. Like no, if you miss the turn counter, you're done. You're passing. You're passing. So it was good. It kept the game moving along, but there were a couple that went.
Hey, Coop.
Yep.
Add chess clocks to the BoDcon
packing list. Yeah, that's a good call. It's a good call.
Yep. I have one. I use. Well, I don't want to even. I won't go into time, but I actually use it for Sarah and I will play when we do like speed chess against each other too. Mostly it's for me. Like I will give her like twice as much time as me to make it semi-fair, because not that I'm good at chess at all, but yeah. But then we could and she has the attention span of a 11-year-old, so she'll be like, "Yeah, I'll play chess in 10 minutes. Let's go!" Boom, 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 boom. So it's kind of fun. But I've also played John Warhammer, I think, with the chess clock, which is good too. And because then and I actually like it for like, hey, even a casual game, like you're getting together, like, hey, let's play a 3-hour game. You put 3 hours on the clock, and then wherever you end up, right? Then you don't have that weird, like, should we finish it? Are we done? It's, whatever. You're just like, oh, we wanted to play for 3 hours.
The second turn, you pack it up.
And you're back it up. You're like, we're out of time. Or it's like, or it gets you to play like, oh, let's actually get this thing to the end of something. So sorry. So that was way big tangent on time clocks there. I think I'm all for it. I think it's good. It was good.
We are too.
There we go. The other one that I've been playing is Sarah and I broke out Hero Quest. Just because I figured I could get her to play it, and she was all in. So we knocked out a couple things there. Again, we're playing pretty casual version where there might be a few re-rolls if things are really bad that might come out of but again, keeps it moving along too. It's like, yeah, well, let's just keep moving quick. We are playing Us Against that. We're using the app.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, which is good. And that's actually got her really, again, anything because there's a screen involved, even though it's a board game, having the screen actually keeps her pretty engaged. And it's cool, the music and the voice and the stuff. So it's real. I wanted to kind of try it, and we're kind of bought in. So
neat.
We'll talk a little bit about hobby and how that may also be contributing there too. So then John and I think we got stood up by Ben for an online game night. And so we pulled out Splendor Duel. I think that's on Board Game Arena, fairly new. We're like, oh, let's give it a try. I heard some things. Splendor Killer, like it is. We got done. We're like, this is pretty good. Like it's, like there's enough. You're interacting with, unlike other Splendor where you kind of interact with other people, you're very much kind of interacting with the other person on there. They've added a couple layers, and I don't have in front of me to remember exactly all the things, but we really enjoyed it. And really like, oh, I don't know if I would, that one probably, I mean, between, what's the other one that I have over here? The other one that I call my Splendor Killer. I can't remember the Gollum one, Century Road. Yeah.
Spice Road.
Like, I think between Spice Road and Splendor Duel, I'm probably selling my Splendor because I can't see where I'd ever bring plain old Splendor to the table anymore. But I know that hurts Josh in the heart, but
I still think Orbis is better than both of them.
Which one's Orbis?
Maybe I feel like we played it once, but I don't remember where I was or how sober I was to remember.
It was a convention. Orbis is you have the little colored cubes, and you place one whenever, and you choose a tile. You're a god, and they're your followers, and you're trying to collect them in different combinations to pay for other tiles off the stack to build your realm and
Yeah.
attract your followers.
I remember that one. That was fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd have to play it again to call it to kill my other games yet, though.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There's
And
somewhere there's the whatever Mary Kill game that we could play with those three.
Whatever, Mary Kill.
I was trying to keep it appropriate-ish.
Yeah, it is whatever.
cool.
Don't want the Goonhammer power-ups to come after me for my coarse language.
But yeah, highly recommend at least try it out. Splendor Duel again, if you end up in that 2-player situation, kind of like Seven Wonders Duel. It's interesting how those games I think at where they've kind of it's really a different game, but with the same. It feels like the full blown versions, but I think both of those is interesting how as they kind of change the constraints and something, I think actually ended up making a better game coming out the other end. So
nice.
I think that's it. I think for me, but I mean, some of these things I was there, but I'll let you guys talk about them.
Yeah, so we've been continuing our close to monthly play of Frosthaven, extending the campaign, starting to see some retirements and new characters, and we'll likely get into it in more depth, but I think we've had a couple plays since we last recorded, 2 if my board game stats app is correct. And then so in the month of May, I played 8 times. I had 8 plays in May, and my island dominated that. So Nicole and I will take a chapter and play the 3 games like in a sitting. So we played 2 chapters of that, so 6 games. Enjoying it. We're kind of taking our time getting through it, but I think it improves upon some of the stuff from my city. And it's hexes instead of squares. So you get some different shapes and different strategy, and it's kind of cool where the story of the island is going as you kind of come from the beaches in and start to settle the jungle and find temples and artifacts. So there's various things happening as you build it out that are a lot of fun. And that's both my city and that lend itself really well to 2-player, because you're kind of solving your own puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really interacting, but you can kind of solve the puzzle together but separately.
Right. Well, it's funny. It doesn't really, in some ways, it doesn't matter how many players you play with, right? 2 to whatever. It really, I mean, it has a certain
2, 3,
finite
or 4
size, but
yeah,
you can kind of
Yep. And the catch-up mechanic is similar. Like, if you're winning and you get your progress points, the loser usually gets a sticker or gets something that helps them kind of combat somebody running away with it. So we're very close, and I think out of the times we've played through the first 5 chapters, it's about 50-50 for who's winning. Then I can't recall if we had played Wormspan as a group before we recorded last or after, but I ended up playing it with my brother and his girlfriend just this weekend. So got that out, and Jenna had played Wingspan. Tom was familiar with Wingspan, but we played that Wormspan, which if we're on the subject of game killers, Wormspan for me, I'll never play Wingspan again.
Yeah.
Just because dragons are better than birds, and I like some of the things they've added, like the guild and the progress, the way that you can kind of do action slightly different, and the economy is just the action economy is a little bit different. But that I think is a really good game that came out in March, and we played it all kind of as a group with Marlon, right?
Yep.
And maybe John, and had a good time playing that with the group of guys.
Yeah, and I might have, based on that and my reaction and Ty, your reaction, I might have bought all the upgrade stuff. So next time we play it, like there's actually little cans of dragon milk.
Oh, milk.
And
Nice.
yeah, I totally blinged it out, so I'm excited to break it out next time. So
When we were playing, Nicole was in the room and she's like, "Why do you guys keep saying milk? Like, is it really?" And we're like, "It's milk. Dragons like milk."
milk.
Yeah, I see D&D on here. I think we played maybe since we recorded last, but I have kind of hit pause. My summer schedule is just too darn busy, sadly. So I want some time to adequately prepare and not feel like I'm rushing to get online and rushing to get stuff prepped. So I sadly have asked the group to hold until probably mid-July, end of July, and then get back into it.
So I am trying to. We'll see. We're trying to get a Weiss family D&D game off the ground, probably to run through the Vecna module that came out. So we're trying to coalesce. I don't know if I might see if a couple other people want to join us, depending on who we can get. And Ty's raises and you have to put up with the Weiss family clan, just so you know. Like you may see a couple nieces and maybe even a Sarah show up at some point for some amount of time, but we'll see. Although I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. That's why I might need people. They might start, and then I might need you guys to come in and clean up the that's longtime players or something like that. So yeah, trying to get that off the ground. I think we're gonna try and do there's like the warm up adventure, kind of the one shot. I think we'll use that for me to get some of the rust off my DM stuff and shake out some of the Roll20 stuff. So we'll see. I think it'll be interesting too. We'll maybe try and do a little bit of hybrid too, with Ben being the only one that might be completely remote. So maybe we do some in person with him on the TV or something like that too. So yeah, just excited. I saw that and I was really excited. Awesome. And I got some people. It seems like it's exciting for to get that going. So we'll see. I'm saying it now on the podcast, so that kind of creates some accountability. We'll see how the summer goes. So.
Well, my son got Mastermind, the old, the 4-color code game. Yeah. That game's been around forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got it for his birthday. I don't know how he found out about it, but he wanted it and somebody got it for him for his birthday. And so he and I and my youngest and I have been playing it a ton, like as our after dinner game. They keep wanting to find awesome codes that I'll never be able to break. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I love a logic puzzle, whatever, And so they just keep coming up with these crazy and one time it was red, 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 black, or triple colors or double colors, or that those are usually the slightly harder ones to figure out. But yeah, so far they haven't broken me yet, so I keep crushing them.
Keep going, stay strong.
Well, the hardest part is when they don't give you the right pegs for the answer, and I'm like, well, so I'm 5 deep and I know this can't be right because you gave me 3 pegs here and only 2 pegs here, and it's the same, and so then I have to call my wife over to adjudicate it a little bit, and then she goes, oh yeah, this is not right. And I'm like,
oh, right. And unreliable clue giver. That's good.
Right. So it's a whole other
level of difficulty. That's good.
Yeah, it's expert level for sure. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's been fun. So they are loving being the mastermind, trying to trick me and whatever. So
yeah.
Excellent. Let's move over to the hobby bench. Mine's going to be really simple because since April 15th, I've done 0 building, painting of models. I got the Shatterpoint stuff kind of all assembled right after Adepticon, and then baseball started up. And really, the only thing that I'm going to consider close to hobby or hobby adjacent is for my wedding anniversary. My wife got me the D&D Lego set.
Nice.
So I built that over the course of a handful of nights. That I'd get done doing whatever, and I'd build Legos for like an hour, listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl as I kind of built Legos and got the set done. So that was a fun build, and it had been a long time. Like, I haven't built Legos by myself in ages. Like, Landon and I have worked on some projects here and there, but I was like, that was actually pretty cool. Like, these new sets are just engineered in such a way that it's absolutely incredible how things kind of work, and all the Easter eggs that get hidden in that D&D set are pretty fantastic. The minifigs are amazing. The dragon is like crazy how cool it is. So that was a lot of fun, but that's really all I've done that came close to hobby here in the last.
So cool. So I'm going to
month.
call out. So someone we know who might be my brother. I think he's jealous, Ty, of the fact that you got the new one. So he dug out this set from, I believe, 86, 80, whatever. So maybe I'll throw it if YouTube, you'll see it. If people who are on the thing, it's basically the original Lego castle from like 1986. John actually looked it up. And John built it.
Just show him this.
That's right.
The dragon, the giant Lego dragon.
Just show him this and say, John, that's really cool and historic, but look at this thing.
I lied. 81. He basically, this was released in 1981. The original Lego. I don't know if people have ever seen it. Maybe is the yellow castle. Right. It was for the day. It was cool. It's like, oh, I really want the Lego castle, right? And it was funny. So I had to share that because John had shared that in our with Ben and I, and I did call him. I'm like, you're just jealous of the new D&D set, aren't you? He's like, yeah, kind of, maybe. It was a good thing. So
he should put it on his Christmas list.
Well, the funny part is, like, there are of course some missing pieces, so he now has to probably make a trip to the Lego store to buy a couple extra yellow bricks to kind of bring it back to complete life. But
and speaking of amazing engineering and Easter eggs, the Lego Tiger is pretty cool if you guys want to check that out. So anyway.
So who else has been doing any non-Lego hobby?
I painted Toad. I've been meaning to paint him for a while, so I knocked him out. I still have to put him on his base, so he's not fully done, but he's all painted. He's ready to go. I've been 3D printing like a madman. I'm trying to build a master mold scenario, kind of do like my own master mold encounter. I have rough rules in my brain, and I'll kind of put them on a nice template and stuff. But and then for our friend of the show, Eric, he asked me to print him a Space Marine helmet that he found on, I don't know, printables or Cult 3D or whatever. And he said, hey, would you print this for me? And I'm like, sure. I don't have a big enough printer to do it all in one shot, so I'm gonna have to do it in pieces. Are you cool with putting it together? And he's like, sure. Well, my slow printer is like each of these pieces is taking like 12 to 18 hours each. So it's like 4 pieces for the top, 4 pieces for the bottom. So yeah, it's been a minute. So yeah, he actually reached out to me and he goes, hey, I'm not trying to be a bother, but where are we at? I'm like, yeah, I know, I kind of forgot about some of it, but yeah, it's taking longer than I thought. So I'm on the final stretch now. I think in the next couple days I'll be done. So, but yeah, my printer's just going crazy. So
cool. Speaking of printers, so as I said, starting to play HeroQuest again, and of course I'm like, this flat board and whatever. It's got really cool minis and the little, the whatever furniture pieces that you put out are pretty cool. But I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have the full 3D board that the Dragon's Rest Ian over there has done? And so I fired that up and starting to work through that. It's going to be the same. That, Joe, is also 1 million pieces. So
Yeah.
it's going to take me a little bit to get through it. I've just got maybe the hallways done that are sitting on my printer. And maybe I had to write a note to myself to remember I forgot to key up another batch to go during the day. So I missed, you always say, I don't know, when if you free print, you're like, every hour that printer's not running is a waste of time.
Yes.
And so it's like, I need that 10 minutes just to come down, tee up the next set and walk away. And I forgot to do it this morning before I went to work. And so I'm like, I wasted 8 hours. Like,
yep. I'm in a bad rotation right now printing Eric's stuff where it's like it ends at like 2 a.m. and I'm like,
right. And you're like, I wasted 4 hours or 5 until I got up, and like, or I could just set an alarm. There were times possibly when I would be like, shit, I really need this done. I'm going to wake up at 2, stumble downstairs, swap pieces, and go back to bed because I really want this thing to be done tomorrow and not the day after tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. I think that's high. I see crowdfunding and I see more 3D printing. So I'm just going to go into eyes gloss over and let you guys 3D print discussion. Somebody ring a bell when it's over.
Ty, these are all adjacent to stuff you're doing.
Oh, okay.
If you're looking for, there's a really good one called, it just finished. So I think you can actually just buy the STLs now. But basically all kinds of like stands for like if you have a display piece that you want to do. It's really not for like regular bases, but for people who, you have that one model you want to put on a real display piece. Really cool set that he put out there. What got me is I'm looking to, I have this idea that I want to take the Terminators that Josh painted for me, and do a really nice display, turn them into a diorama with a guy there. And he has a really cool kind of like Hulkish kind of hallway kind of thing as part of it. But he has a lot of like single miniature, big, whatever bases there. I'll drop a link to it in the thing, or you can kind of search for Hero Stand display prints and I think you'll find it. The other one, which is it Dragon's Rest? I want to misplay. Is Sentinel City? I think so, right?
I think you're
right.
right.
I'm almost positive it is. I should have put the link in here. Which is MCP, a really cool terrain for probably for a superhero type kind of things. Again, I did a sample building that I gave Ty as a paint project. I was super impressed by just the demo building that came on. So that's fully out there and gonna start. I think as we start figuring out what we want to do, I'm gonna build
confirm Dragon's Rest.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ty, again, if you're on video, Ty has the little demo house that he put out there, that was out there that I printed. I was just really impressed with how that thing came out right off the printer.
Yeah.
So excited to kind of do maybe a board of that kind of terrain for some of our upcoming MCP stuff too. And then our friend Matt down under New Zealand, Printable Scenery, has a new set that he worked on with is it Johnny over at Weta that he did the Hogglethorn Hallow set that I did all in resin. Basically, you can do all that stuff is available from Printable Scenery as STLs. And then there's this new set that's kind of like a dock and big buildings and really cool. So I'm tempted there to kind of, I think I bought some of that stuff because I'm looking kind of like we did with the Zombicide game that I did this year. I just looked at that and like, oh, this could be really cool to make another, whether it's a Zombicide board or something like that. So check out those. So just again, there's always a million different STL things every week, it seems like, but these really just caught my eye and things that I think I'm definitely going to print at least some of these pieces and use. So unlike a lot of, I'm not mentioning Ty, all the ones I have bought just because I'm like, those look really cool. I have no reason maybe why I'm going to do that right now, but I'll support it and get it because it seems like it has a cool piece that someday I may print, which who knows when someday is. But.
When is someday, right?
Yep.
Very cool. I'll take a look at Cities of Ramshackle and Ruin because that sounds interesting. and then I can have you guys print stuff for me.
Yeah, I was saying if you see something there, Ty, because I think you're going to look at it again, very organic, a lot of wood. It screams for like being a really cool terrain paint project.
Yeah. Neat. I caught something on Kickstarter. I don't usually surf Kickstarter, but some reason I don't know if it was an Instagram ad or what, but so I've played the Seventh Continent a few times. They did a game, it was like 2 years ago, called the Seventh Citadel. They're doing a return of the Seventh Citadel. So same style where you put the cards out and you explore. You can play it solo, kind of solve the mystery. And it's a post-apocalyptic medieval setting for the Seventh Citadel. And it's returning. I think it's the original game plus maybe an expansion. I don't know how different it is. I didn't play Seventh Citadel at all, but it's launching on Kickstarter, I think June 4th. And it looks pretty interesting because, you know, Seventh Continent is really great if you like kind of that exploration, putting cards out, finding things hidden on them, kind of solving a mystery as you go. So I thought that was interesting. Troy, I see you added one that we had. I think I shared the starter PDF with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you flipped through it at all.
Yes. Read it from front to back.
But so the Zombicide RPG game is doing a kind of Black Plague called Plague Bearer, like a dark fantasy, using similar rules to the Zombicide RPG that came if you backed like the second edition stuff or got into that at all. But pretty cool setting. They describe it as like adjacent to Black Plague, White Death, was it Green Horde? I think was the other one. But interesting system, and I didn't see. So did the Kickstarter launch, or is it?
No, that's what I said. Yeah, unlike a lot of other ones, we're giving you guys a heads up because I think it launches in June, middle of June. So June 17th, it launches. So we're actually giving people a heads up if you're interested in getting in on this one.
Yeah, it looked interesting. Once again, it's just tough because I don't know if it'll ever get played, but it might be cool books to take a look at and just add to the collection. Yeah,
and they're usually, I mean, that's the thing about RPG, good or bad, right? RPG it's usually not a big investment into them to at least get the core book and kind of stuff just to have it to look at. So,
yeah. What else? Any other books, Troy? I think you got another book.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned, I think we hadn't talked about it on the podcast, but I think we had talked about it internally, and just want to make people aware of, and Dave Taylor Miniatures, and he's been doing a bunch of different, I think I've showed in the past, he's done a bunch of these books over the last couple of years on different modeling, and I think the armies, legions, and hordes, there's a lot of his stuff that he painted. And then then for the last, I think, I don't know how long he's been at it there, he's been doing the art of book, where he's basically been showcasing books that have a bunch of miniatures that painted by different artists, kind of focusing on a set of different artists on there. And so I think there are 9 of those out there. I think he's been doing them in like sets of 3 around that. Check out Dave Taylor's site, DaveTaylorMiniatures.com, and the art books that he's been putting out there.
Thank you, Troy. And there's quite a list here of other things of geekery, gamedom, and what we're fans of. So I'm going to share a couple just because that's what I do. I jump in. So Vince Venturella, gotten to know him over the years through Age of Sigmar stuff and, tournaments and whatnot. He and I think it's Adam. What's his? He has like a YouTube channel, and it's escaping me now. But Vince, obviously, huge YouTube personality. They've been doing some games, kind of small scale, skirmish size, miniature games. There was a space one, but Snarling Badger is their kind of game company, and they just launched a new game called Deth Wizards, DETH, and lets you use necromancers and skeletons and zombies, and you've been expelled from the land of death, DETH, like a medieval fantasy realm, and you're coming back with your undead minions to kind of take over and fight them. So it's kind of, you are the bad guy and you fight. It can be played solo, it can be played cooperatively, or against one another, but you come fight heroes that are trying to defend villagers and lead your undead hordes against them in kind of a 3 to 12 model kind of skirmish size game on a 22 by 30 play space, with campaign, different play styles. Looks pretty cool. I think the PDF's like $15 or $12, and the print on demand book and PDF is like $18. But interesting, released I think this week, maybe last week. I think it was this week, but
yeah, Tabletop Minions. Adam does Tabletop Minions, pretty popular game away. If you see that, he is also semi-local. He's just north of. He's about an hour or so north of us. I believe he's in the like Sheboygan, Fond du Lac area, something like that. I maybe get it not quite around there, but and we will come back to Adam in a little bit.
So yeah, Snarling Badger, Deth Wizards. It actually looks like one I might pick up just because I like that whole necromancer skeleton thing, and it could be fun as I look at what Josh 3D prints, and just an accessible. They don't say you can play it over a lunch break. They make a funny point of that in one of their streams that they did. But Vince did say about 45 minutes to an hour. So thought that was interesting and of note, worth checking out. The other thing, so I have this, it's hard to see, but it's like a Lord of the Rings style map of the state of Wisconsin. The guy's Lord of Maps. He has like Instagram and Twitter. He did a Mother's Day card that it was like a hand-drawn map, the land of mom. So I ordered that and had it shipped so Landon could fill out and give to Nicole for Mother's Day. But it was kind of a cool little, parchment style card, and Nicole is going to keep it. And I think we're going to find a frame for it because it's actually like a really cool looking map that he did for Mother's Day. What else? I feel like I should hand it off to one of you guys so I'm not just info dumping.
I'll wrap up because Josh and I will jump in on my last one here. But I will talk about, if people are listening, is one of my I should call it hobby. One of my projects was getting rid of, as everybody knows, I redid and all Space Hulk this year, which means I had this huge set of old Space Hulk stuff to get rid of. And I shipped that all out to, if people listen, Carl kind of dropped and let people know that he actually bought it from me. I tell people that I actually tried to like talk him out of it a little bit. I'm like, are you sure? You sure you want me to ship all this stuff and you really want this all your, you just did an episode about how you're collecting stuff and whatever. But it sounds like, yeah, I mean, if it sounds good. Like, I think Shell, his wife, was excited to, I think they have some plans to, run that kind of thing at some of the either local convention, then maybe at KublaCon next year, which is the medium-sized convention kind of in the San Francisco area, around there. So I don't know. I've also I haven't told Carl yet, but I'm like, maybe I need to come out to KublaCon, do as a consultant or something, hang out. I haven't been to San Francisco in a decade or so maybe it would be a good thing. So that might be an option there. So yeah, it was actually felt freeing to get rid of the whatever it was, 80 pounds or so of Space Hulk stuff that I got in 2 boxes. And so, although I did find that I did forget, I found as I was moving stuff around, I'm like, oh shit, I've left there was one bin that I didn't put in there, and so I actually packed that up this week and sent it off to him too. I'm like, you haven't opened it yet because you haven't noticed that you're missing or something, but you'll do that. Cool. Anything else, Ty? Otherwise, Josh and I will talk about our adventures.
Yeah. I'll just fill in the gap. So, I picked up a box of Star Wars Unlimited boosters, and I kind of opened all of them. I bought the starter, Vader versus Luke, and then I went down a rabbit hole. Even though I don't have anyone to play it with, Landon and I haven't played. I don't know if maybe he'll get in on it a little bit with me, but I've been building the 2 decks. And then I started watching YouTube videos of like how you can take the starter deck and modify them. And then I realized with the booster packs open, I didn't have all the cards I needed. So then I started buying Star Wars Unlimited singles from like TCG Player and other places. So I get these envelopes in the mail with like cards and hard sleeves. And then I built out the 2 decks. And then I started building another deck. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to buy $60 Boba Fett cards to make this happen. So we're going to hold that. All that being said, Star Wars Unlimited is actually really cool. I think I like playing it more than I liked playing Lorcana. It has a very different kind of dynamic that I really enjoyed, where you're attacking the base and you play your cards into space or into ground. So you have kind of 2 fronts that you can attack and choose, or you can attack a player's base. And there's some between round actions, like you can choose to take the initiative and stop playing cards, taking actions, or like other actions. But you're kind of giving your opponent the initiative then, so that the next round they could finish playing a couple actions and then still have initiative the next round, which is slightly different than I think a lot of card games play. There's a little more tactical sense of like waging these battles. So I've been kind of getting into like deck crafting theory and how to play and maximizing stuff, but I haven't played any games because you guys know I refuse to go to a game store and play strangers. So Star Wars Unlimited new set, it's like Shadows of the Force or something like that, drops in July. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to pre-order a booster box because it's been really hard to find at a reasonable price since the drop in I think it was late March. And I swore it was 2 months ago. I swore off Games Workshop. I'm hearing good things about Spearhead. I don't think I'm willing to do it. But if somebody were to say, "Hey, I set it up, let's try it," like when Troy ran like a Combat Patrol night, I would probably do it. I won't get too far into it, but 4th edition I'm not really interested in from what I've seen, but Spearhead actually has me like intrigued that they've actually crafted a decent game around larger than skirmish but smaller than 1,000 point AOS. So we'll see what happens. I'm never going to buy them. I will be 3D printing through various sources any possible AOS models that I need. But then the last thing of note, new game store open in Milwaukee. There's been kind of a black hole on the east side of town up near University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee's campus. Napoleon's closed, I think, back in 04, 05.
Yeah.
And they were kind of that classic game store, a lot of play space in the basement, miniature heavy kind of focus. Yeah. So Old Guard Games opened. They had their grand opening with a handful of events and tournaments this weekend. I haven't been in there yet, but I know a lot of people that have. Saw some pictures. Our friend of the show, Paul, was in there kind of for like some pre-release, and we saw some cool stuff. They ran an AOS tournament Sunday. They have like 24 room for like 24 player, so like 12 table, I think, play space in the basement. Heavily stocked with miniature games of all varieties. I think there's some card and some board game, but it is primarily like a miniature, like heavy game, centric game store. Old Guard on, I think it's Downer Avenue, right across from UWM's campus. So hopefully get up there soon, check it out. But just thought for anyone in the Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee area, might be worth dropping in there.
Cool. Cool. And we'll tie back into that tie. So last thing, so Josh and I had an interesting week, and I can't share too much, but Terrace Cassidy from Geek Nation Tours was in town last week. And we were talking about doing some planning for around Adepticon next year and things like that. So we got together, had dinner with him. Josh was able to join me on Wednesday, talked about some of that stuff. We'll let Terrace will probably be dropping a bunch of info about everything going on with the Adepticon tour next year pretty soon, usually in the next when are we here? Next couple of weeks, usually I think early mid-June, around that. So that was good. And then I was lucky enough that on the Saturday the Adepticon crew all the crew was in town. Hank, Matt, Terrace, Dave Taylor came into town. Adam from Tabletop Minions was there too. Greg Sparks, I'm gonna go Dennis. The whole gang was there on Saturday, and I was lucky enough to get invited along. We basically toured the Baird Center through all the different spaces, and then was able to sit in a little bit of some of the planning and things like that. But it was pretty cool. And again, if you want, check out Dave Taylor's and Jake's podcast, Build, Paint, Play from yesterday. Dave kind of goes through and talks a little bit about the process, has some good pictures of the Baird Center and then the space there. I don't even know. It'll be interesting to see. For people, I don't think people are even going to grasp how much room that we have now in Adepticon with the Baird Center and all the hotel space and things like that. I think he tries by going through the floor plan, and pictures, they don't think they really even give you a good feel for the amount of space that's there. So that was it was a great Saturday just to get to hang out, and got to hang out a lot with Terrace, and I didn't know Dave Taylor that well, but got to hang out with him and have a beer and some of that. So that was a blast around some of that. So, and just again, super excited. We are still, what are we? I don't know, but 9 months away from 10 months away from Adepticon, but the planning is in full force, and we will share things as we know them, but just excited. And I am, again, been a little bit behind the scenes with Adepticon, but the amount of work and everything that goes in the planning that goes into that convention, Hank, Matt, and everyone else, there's a huge crew of people that do that and have spent so much time to make things happen for now, whatever it's going to be now, 8,000, who knows how many gamers we're going to have, 10,000 people show up around something like that. But a lot of really excited for that around there. And they we tried to go to old guard games, but I tried to go with Terrace on Wednesday, not realizing it wasn't open yet until Friday. Luckily, we didn't quite do that, but because Paul went to I think they opened up for a pre-opening the weekend before, and Paul had shared that with us. And then I'm like, oh yeah, Terrace asked, was like, is there a game store? I'm like, oh yeah, there's this new one. And then they check. I'm like, oh, it's not actually open yet. But he actually ended up going with some of the Adepticon staff all went on Sunday, including Dave Taylor. I think Dave has some pictures from his podcast there on some of that stuff too. So, so that's, I just wanted to, that was Adepticon is right around the corner. Maybe not. We will
10 months right around the corner.
But planning is starting now, basically.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
And like I said, we will, as soon as Terrace shares the stuff, we will share it here around. Just needless to say, we're trying to do some stuff again with them this year, so excited.
So two comments. One, it would have been a lot cooler if he said he was scouting film locations for the Bodfather movie. Two, I do believe I said Adepticon should come to Milwaukee, and I was poo-pooed by several Weiss brothers that it wouldn't happen.
We didn't want to jinx it. We absolutely didn't want to jinx it.
So, point of order.
Point of order.
I am so happy that you were right, Ty. I am so happy you're right. But we didn't want to believe it. You didn't want to believe it. You don't want to believe it was real until it was real.
Yeah, it is awesome. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it'll be great. I can throw a dice and hit my office. Let's go to the library. Open the door, walk down the creaky steps. Didn't we used to do sound effects for the library on the old show?
Back when I did it.
Games, Booze, and the Art of.
There's a swinging door and like thump, thump, thump.
Thump, thump, thump.
I think you might be right.
Creak, thump, 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 thump. Yeah. But yeah, what are we reading / watching / listening? Josh, I'm going to start with you. Have you watched Cars in the last month or two?
Nope. But the fit
Mm-hmm.
is here. No. So I've been meaning to watch X-Men '97. And yeah, it's super good. I'm really enjoying it. It's very nostalgic. It's throwing me back to like early cartoon watching and that whole thing. Yeah, it's awesome. Really enjoying it. It's super fun. I I remember it being a lot less like quirky, I guess. And I'm realizing, yeah, it's still like really quirky, and I kind of forgotten some of the quirkiness, like in a good way, in an awesome way, right? Like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's super fun. Um, and then I'm catching up on my cyberpunk homework, I'm calling it. So I read Neuromancer. I don't know, earlier this year, late last year, I forget when. Um, but I was like, okay, I need to go back and read Snow Crash too. So I'm reading Snow Crash right now. If anybody is interested, I would actually read it instead of I'm the audiobook is throwing me off a little bit. They have some weird sound effects between scenes and things. Not my favorite. That throws me off. But the story's good. But yeah, the weird sound effects are not doing it for me. So
Yeah. It's been a while. I think, isn't it? Because even the audiobook itself is like, that recording is pretty old, right? Like it,
sure, yeah. I mean, it sounds old.
right. It's so
It,
I think it might have been an early, yeah, like in the early days of audiobooks, and
yeah,
where they tried to like, yeah, spice things up in the, yeah, where the sound effects maybe don't actually add a whole lot to the,
yeah. Well, and like between every chapter, there's like this weird, I don't know, a kind of babbling sound, and then sometimes even between sections within the chapters, there's like a weird
Yeah.
sound effects, and I don't know. It's fine. It's not bad. It's just not. It takes away from the book, I think.
Yeah.
So, um, and then so I'm 3/4 of the way done with it. I started looking into like people who like Neuromancer or Snow Crash and like the comparisons and things, and it seems like a lot of people have a strong feeling of one versus the other. Like there's not a whole lot of people that like both equally, or like there's a very big swing one way or the other. So I thought that was interesting too. So I will reserve my judgment until the end, until I finish it. But right now I do have a strong feeling one way or another. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, that's been me.
I was just trying to see when Gibson wrote Neuromancer, because Snow Crash was 92.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the 84. Yeah. So I think a lot of the criticism I've seen in the past was it didn't feel like Stevenson was paying homage to Gibson. It felt
Mhm.
like he was not stealing, but like just kind of iterating upon what came before him without like necessarily enough time hadn't passed to like show how great Neuromancer was. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
weird kind of like obviously aware of it, obviously influenced and inspired. And I can't prove this, but I feel like I've seen something that Stevenson's been kind of not dismissive of Gibson's work, but like not extolling its virtues. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've heard that too. So um still good book. I mean, I'm enjoying it,
Yes,
but
no,
I
yeah.
yeah, you're I mean, I'm tipping my hand here now, but yeah, like Neuromancer, I give the nod. But if you go look up like in Goodreads or something, people are There's a lot of people that are like, I love Snow Crash a lot, and Neuromancer's great, but Snow Crash is awesome, and vice versa, right? The other way as
Yeah.
well, which
Yeah.
it's interesting. I don't know. It shows that all books have a home for somebody, right? So yeah.
Yeah, some people rate 5s 3 stars. Troy, how about you talk about what you've been reading?
Ha 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 ha. It's a good
I
segue.
thought I think we have to close with that discussion, but I can
I
go
just
through
I
the other
just
stuff that I talked about.
Yeah, I just segued it off to you. No, that was by no means was that a shot fired across the bow. That was just a
Sure. So I read The Long and Hungry Road by Adrian Chefskovsky, who is one of my favorite authors. And what I love is that I think he's also, I don't know if he likes 40K, but he has written a few, especially in the Tyranid kind of stuff. He has a book I've talked about before with Gene Stealer Cult that I think is the best Gene Stealer Cult book, that really talks about their motivation. This is an interesting, just and not even novella. It's probably just more of a short story that talks about the Tyranid, hive coming to just what happens on a planet when it gets kind of demolished. And again, he does a great job of kind of outlining the hopelessness and and going back and forth between the not the point of view, but a little bit of the point of view of the actual Tyranid, hive mind, kind of that collective, and then it goes to like boots on the ground perspective. So I enjoyed it. Just a nice little palate cleanser that I grabbed because I saw his name on it there. Continued reading the latest in the Murderbot books. Enjoy those. They're a lot, and this was a novella also. Like there's Martha Wells. If you don't know the story of Murderbot, it's a kind of a future where corporations kind of control everything, including, and then they have kind of he says a murder bot, but really he's a security droid, and they're basically constructs. So they are mostly metal, but they do have some organic parts. And I can't remember if they ever talk about. It's not like it was a human. It was more about kind of grown, I think, like grown human parts that are his core. So he basically he's rogue, in that early on, that's the whole premise, is he overrode his governor module, and so he kind of has free will, which most of them don't. And it's an interesting, it's his point of view. So again, she thinks she does an interesting job of kind of a non-human character point of view, and it's funny. It's very much tongue-in-cheek. It is not a serious book at all. They do a drama, but it's definitely has some of its lighter side, and his self-commentary is kind of funny because he has you got to think of it. He basically ends up being a very neurodivergent person because he is not a person, right? Which is interesting how she can kind of draw some of those parallels around that, right? You'd probably align him with someone who's maybe functionally autistic person, in the way he does not like to make human contact, doesn't like to make things because of things like that. So really interesting, fun stuff. This is the 7th or 8th book in that series. Enjoyed that. And then coming back to I'm going to touch on some of the things I've been watching and reading, mostly on podcast stuff. I'm talking about that, but Grimdark Media, which is Ash, who does all the kinds of the gaming channel. I don't remember what's his actual gaming channel. I'm going to have to remember what that is, but and one of the things they talked about, because they code through different kind of media, was the book called Roadside Picnic. I basically turned it on and I watched the first 2 minutes and I'm like, hold it, I'm not going to spoil myself. I'm going to go read this book. Roadside Picnic was written in, I think, the 70s by some Russian authors. So it's interesting. There's a lot of story there about how did sci-fi authors actually get a book out of communist Russia in the 70s. And then this book basically inspired, I don't know if I wasn't too familiar with it, but the video game Stalker is basically inspired by this book. And kind of the idea is, not really spoilers because it's the first 2 minutes, is the idea is aliens came to the Earth, and they talked about basically if you take the Earth and you fire a 3 bullets through it and make kind of the spots on each side of the earth where those would kind of go through. They created these areas that all kinds of craziness kind of happened, and then they left kind of these areas that are all full of all kinds of monsters, things, and the people in there or whatever. So and then there's just kind of an economy that kind of built up around these areas because there's artifacts that some people can go in, but it's super deadly to kind of go in, and the people that go in are called stalkers, and that's where some of that name comes from. But again, like a novella type length, again, just like a lot of the books of the 70s, 80s, right? They were not, a full length book was 180 pages, right? Or something like that. If that, so again, interesting read, kind of this idea of going back and again, like you, Josh, reading some of the original stuff that a lot of stuff inspired by. And what's interesting here is again, where these guys, because they were where they were in Russia, like in some ways they weren't, this is really like a completely original idea because they really didn't have any other things that they had access to that they were inspired by around some of that stuff too. So, enjoyed that around, and again, got to thank Ash and his podcast for at least kind of make me aware of it and reading it through. So enjoyed that. And then the other thing I've been listening, and I just got to mention, I don't know, is the new podcast called Jugs that Chris Peachy and Louise from Rogue Hobbies and Rob, what's Rob's last name? Rob from, so kind of the 3XGW.
Rob
Signs for their, it's my favorite podcast. Like though I love what they're doing. They had wish I could remember who the designer was. James, I'm going to get his name wrong. Designer they had another guest this week, but really funny. Really, I mean, I like what, as kind of people who have a lot to know and, kind of XGW employees and things like that. I love how they keep it positive, keep it funny. Really are, they're hobby forward and kind of that stuff. I was never a huge fan of Rob's. I think in his old, I don't know, I want to say his old life or whatever, some of that. It was funny. Even he kind of talks about, I think some of that was, his Twitter personality is sometimes was very much different than his real personality in some of that. And I think I really got turned on. And he even talks about his toxic Twitter personality on some of that. And so but then I saw some interviews. I think he was on the painting phase and I think Ty, you were actually, I don't know if you probably met him, I think in person, right? And so, and he seems like, and again, it's like this weird dichotomy of like everything I see of he seems like this really cool guy. And then you see this stuff and it really would just like, I don't quite get this right around some of that. So it's getting interesting to see him in this format. Cause I again, totally love what he's doing there and enjoying that one. So, and they totally embrace their name too, which is kind of funny. So.
Is it a watchable podcast?
Yeah, they do both. They do both audio and video.
Is it better to watch it?
I would say sometimes like ours, sometimes they show things that they are talking about, but no, I don't. I end up listening to it more than I end up watching it, so I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Good to know.
All right, Ty, hit yours, and then
we'll
have the.
So I renewed my library card after not having used it in a while. I read a few books from the library. One of them, so for whatever reason, I was like, I want to read a Western. So I did some Googling on what were some good Westerns that weren't like Louis L'Amour, or like, like more modern. And two kept popping up. And one is The Heavenly Table by Donald Ray Pollock. It follows three brothers that it's like World War I, U.S. has just gotten involved. So it's like early 1900s. So it's not Old West, but they were kind of very poor. Their father dies and they decide they're going to kind of strike out on their own, but they're largely influenced by like a dime novel cowboy gunfighter that they read. That's the only book one of them read again and again and again. So they like go and I think they rob a store first or a bank, and they go on this kind of crime spree in like Ohio, world, but like kind of with that gunfighter mentality. It was actually really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it had Western elements, but it wasn't like truly a Western. And then Another one that I read was Percival Everett is the author. He's written a ton of stuff. African-American author, and it was called God's Country. And it takes the kind of trope of a Western hero. His wife is kidnapped by men dressed like Indians. He loses his ranch, and he hires an African-American freed slave to be a tracker to find them. But he's just the worst. That like the protagonist, the main character, is like the worst person ever. He's lazy. He's racist. And it just kind of turns it upside down to how he navigates through it, with that mentality of I should be able to do whatever I want. But it's really an interesting commentary on kind of the Western genre and that style novel. So it's a really good read. I zipped through it in like a couple of days. Then I read. So I was at Barnes and Noble. I saw the new Dungeons and Dragons book. They've started a new like novel series called The Fallbacks, set in the Forgotten Realms. I get what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to appeal to a little broader audience. It definitely didn't have it wasn't Ed Greenwood. It wasn't R.A. Salvatore, right? Like, I don't know July Johnson, the author. Like, it was okay. It never really grabbed me. I was like, characters are interesting-ish. I would have almost rather had a novel about the characters from like Honor Amongst Thieves, the D&D movie, or like, it was just tough. I wanted it to be better than I think it was. I didn't have huge high expectations, but I got through it and I was like, yeah, that was okay. But it's not the Crystal Shard, right? It's not any of these other things that have become iconic over time. And I don't think the Fallbacks become that series. So but whatever.
There is a book about the druid from the D&D movie.
Oh, really?
Yep. And I honestly, I have it. Like, I think I got it for Sarah, and then I started reading it, but I didn't finish it, so I can't give you anybody opinion. I literally started reading it with her, and then I never went back. But you just made me think about that when you said that, because I'm like, there is, and at least I was intrigued for the first 3 chapters that I read. So that's good.
Yeah. And then I've been listening to. So I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl 5, the Butcher's whatever. Butcher's Masquerade. I was like, okay, this is better than the one about the railroads. And then I've been listening to 6, and I'm like, okay, this is neat. I'm like, I kind of want to know where the story goes, but I'm getting a little tired of it. But like, it's funny, it's entertaining, it's the narration's great. It's just I'm kind of looking for something like drastically different to happen. And I feel like I'm at the point now where after 6 of them, if you give me the theme for 7, I can likely outline what happens like over the 25 hours or whatever of the book. It's starting to feel just a little rote, a little routine. Still entertaining. I'm getting through it, but not like, oh, this is incredible. The first few, I was like, it's fun and it's good background, but it's not like nourishing my my inner like reader. So then, Troy, like you, going to some old classic sci-fi, one series that I never really read, or author for that matter, is David Eddings. So he was kind of writing in that high fantasy 1980s, I think, early 90s. And one of the book series that always gets brought up is just really being a great kind of good versus evil, boy on a quest novel is the Belgariad. So I picked up at Half Price Books the Belgariad Volume 1, started reading that, farm boy epic quest. It's entertaining. It's certainly like, by now, if you've read one, you've read all of. You think back to like probably Fred Saberhagen and David Eddings, like even Terry Brooks, like all of those are kind of very similar around that time. But trying to read that. Maybe someday I'll try to read Dune to fully earn back my nerd card, since I never read that.
And he has passed away, so it's okay to buy his book from Half Price Books.
Eddings, yeah. The foreword was written by him. It was like a newer edition that 2000, I think, maybe was when it got released. But reading that as well. So that one I just started. And then Nicole and I on Netflix watched the 3-part documentary on Ashley Madison. If you guys remember that website, that was like 4 cheaters, basically. Mind blowing, like the rise and fall of that company. And you see behind the scenes of the data security, because there was a big data security breach in like 2016 or whatever that brought them down. But all the fraud that got uncovered and all of the practices of the company, and it follows the story. It was like really well done, limited docuseries that just kind of shows what was happening behind the scenes. And we watched it in like one night. Each episode was like 50 minutes, and we just kind of zipped through it.
Just powered through it,
But it was actually a really well done, like, documentary, just from how they pieced the story together in the interviews. And like at one point they bring in the guy was Swedish, who's like a hacker and some kind of forensic like technology guy, to try to find where the data breach came from before they went public with it. So they had those guys that they interviewed and talked about like the company's approach and how they uncovered this and what they found. And it was really good. So highly recommend that. You don't have to care at all about dating websites or like what Ashley Madison was. That just adds to like the ridiculousness of it. And like, I didn't know the company was founded in like 2001, and it was, it had like 40,000 users. Then in 2014, they had like 40 million users. It was insane. Like the growth and how they were making their money and exploiting people and fake account. Like, it was crazy. It was like every episode uncovered more of how poorly run and what kind of like almost like a Ponzi scheme this company was.
Interesting.
So a lot of reading, a lot of watching. It's been I guess a lot. We'll see what's next after I finish some David Eddings. I don't know what I'll dive into next. All right, Troy. You also read Hunger of the Gods.
Yes, I finished Hunger of the Gods finally.
So, Josh, you have not yet read Hunger?
Is that the second one?
Yeah.
I started it. I got derailed, not because it was not good. I was reading something else in between. I have to read one book at a time. I'm that kind of person. So I was halfway through something else and I never picked it back up. So, yeah.
Well, we'll go spoiler free, and it'll be hard to tell Troy why he's wrong without spoilers. But Troy rated it a 3 on Goodreads, and I got the notification, and I had to take a minute and rub my eyes and make sure that it wasn't just because I took my contacts out that I was seeing the rating accurately. And I'm, just so you guys don't think that I am the big John Gwynn fanboy, I'm gonna go back to a message that I had from friend of the show, Dr. Gabe, and he said, just finished Hunger of the Gods. Furious. What is this bullshit? Grumpy face. And I said, furious? You didn't enjoy it? He said, sorry, busy after being bored for a bit. Furious as in now I have to get the next book on release. I mean, spoiler, killing spoiler, spoiler, and spoiler, the wolf god, spoiler, crazy stuff, exclamation point. So get the book on release. Furious that he doesn't have it to read, and Troy rated it a 3.
3. And it does have a 4.55 currently on Goodreads. which is crazy. Like a 4, like a lot of things hover around 4, but a 4-5 basically means that as many people are rating it a 5 as they are a 4, right? Which is crazy, right? And then I give it a 3. Like, who is this guy? In my defense, here is what
you can't make him happy.
I said. It is more and I did, because I usually I finish the book and I'm like, oh, I gotta mark it in Goodreads. So it is more a reflection of my emotional state at the end of the book rather than the quality of the book. So maybe that you could take that as like, I was so upset with how the book ends that I took it out on the rating rather than and because that was the only thing that I had to take it out on. So
what did you rate Shadow of the Gods?
4. Yeah.
Okay.
Most positive 4. Yep. And like I said, it's good. There's 2 things that that I got to the end and I was, again, for the best reasons, because I definitely had emotional reactions. So you could say that's, but partly it was there's point of view characters that for good reason annoy me, but there's good reason. And then the ending of the book, I don't want to spoil. The ending of the book is again, made me angry. So it would made me sad and angry. So I was like, take this, John Gwynn, 3 stars. And I can't wait for the
well, now I'm gonna have to crank through the end of Snow Crash, and then I'll start Hunger of the Gods over again, because I think I'm literally only I was like 1 chapter in, and I'm like, I need to finish this other book that I forget what I was reading.
And then we will maybe we need to pull together a spoiler full extra content episode out there. So.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I'm ready to take a deep breath, move on. We're gonna take a slight break, insert a musical interlude. I'm gonna and then come back ready to go with our main topic, and then show close. And we're back. I've reset myself. I'm no longer mad at Troy. I'm no longer upset that somebody could rate one of the best reads of 2024 as a 3. And I'm willing to talk about a couple questions that I'm going to pose for my friends here and share my thoughts. So the first one, as I was kind of compiling my list of what I've been reading and what I've been listening to, I kind of thought about adaptation, film and TV. We know there's supposedly a 40K project coming with the better of the 2 Geralts, Henry Cavill. We know that, there's Rings of Power Season 2, like there's Wheel of Time, all this stuff. But I thought about some series that have been perhaps rumored to be connected to projects, but nothing concrete yet. And I kind of want to talk about which of these lends themselves best to, and this is an important qualifier, a live action show. So don't think animated, live action. And then maybe that guides it. But the 3 that I would propose into this kind of like IP death match, and one walks away with like a streamer show, a Netflix, a Prime, whatever. That's Joe Abercrombie, The First Law, very specifically, First Law trilogy. John Gwynn, the current trilogy that he's working on, the incomplete. So Shadow of the Gods, Hunger of the Gods. What is it? The Bloodsworn Saga.
Yeah.
Or Matt Dinniman's Dungeon Crawler Carl. All 3, I think, on their own merits are very different in very different ways. But I wanted to open the discussion. And I think for me, why I focused on live action is because I think Dungeon Crawler Carl would be nearly impossible to do as a live action show.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, that's interesting. I was thinking I was going to go the opposite. So I would rank. I had Dungeon Crawler Carl as first, then First Law, and then Shadow of Gods. And my thought was that Dungeon Crawler Carl, you basically wouldn't need a set. Like you could fake out a set. Like you could do it in a volume. You could do it in a you could make it very much computer gamey and do that and use that to keep the cost down, because I basically have to have a couple characters and do that. Now, again, as I think through it, I'm going to have a CGI cat probably. That might be a breaker, right? But I was trying to think just from a set. But
okay,
CGI monsters, CGI bosses,
maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Like,
yeah,
many of the crawler races and stuff. Mordecai, every time he changes. So here's what I thought, and this I think would be amazing, is like animation style like Rick and Morty.
Yes.
And do that kind of like, it's not quite 3D, 2D, like, but that style. And I want Dan Harmon. I don't care about anything. Like, I want Dan Harmon to be the showrunner for Dungeon Crawler Carl. And if it's animated, we can get what's his name to narrate. Jeff Hayes, is it?
Yeah.
To be Carl. So it's a win-win.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, all the people could be like the audiobook voices could still do all the same voices. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. I was actually thinking the same thing. Like, it's got to be animated if it's going to be Dungeon Crawler Carl. But yeah, I'm totally with you. Rick and Morty style would be awesome.
But live action, then, so the next thing, then it comes down to Vikings and magical creatures, or like gritty Adjua, like Baez and the Eaters are the closest you get to like crazy, but they're still human in some way, shape, or form. Like,
that's why I had First Law as I think, because you're a lot of, right, it's kind of far ranging and you got some things, but it's fairly humanoidish, right? And you could probably do some stuff, right? You don't need to have a lot of things, whereas Shadow and Hunter of the Gods, like, I'm just like the span of the world, like so many different, like different scenes and whatever, that feels like that would be hard to figure out how to do. It feels like it'd be Game of Thrones type, budget.
Yeah,
could be cool though.
So who do you cast as Sandin Glocka?
I'm not good at this.
Yeah, I know. I don't watch enough movies anymore to like. But it's an Oscar-winning role if you can do it right, or Emmy-winning, depending on where you're on.
I want it to be Christopher Waltz.
Yeah. I think that works. That works really good. Although, how old is he now?
Probably a little too old to be young Glocka.
CGI.
And Nine Fingers. I would love to see who could pick up that role. But there's some casting there that I think would be super cool.
Yeah.
But I think Abercrombie wins out First Law.
Yeah.
Because I think it also would there's like the politics and there's the interaction of characters. There's some like love and intrigue, whereas I think Bloodsworn is all action, all magic.
Yeah.
Cool. I think maybe a cool movie, like, to focus on a character. It could be a very interesting movie. But yeah, that's a thought exercise I have. So I thought I'd bring you guys into the question, because I often waste a lot of time thinking about projects that I have no control over, or how I do it, or what I would do. And I know Abercrombie, Tim Miller was connected to it. Abercrombie was penning the script. Best Served Cold is supposed to be in the works,
Yeah.
but I think there was a blog update earlier this year that it's like it's a long way off.
Yeah.
It's not like a close. So I think Joe's focused on his next book, The Devils, which comes out later this year. But yeah. So next topic for our kind of multiple question main topic. I've been thinking a lot about this because I swear I can't get enough of this game and I want to play it every weekend. It's probably a good thing that we have it at Josh's and not my house because I would have just played through the whole thing. But so Frosthaven, I was trying to think about what keeps us coming back to that game. The story kind of evolving, the narrative. Is it the discovering of new things, opening envelopes, rules, buildings, whatever, personal quests, the character advancement, the town advancement? It's really the longest we've stuck with any kind of campaign game, or like legacy of any kind. Like other ones we've tried and we've played once or twice, and like we just never really have stuck with it. And like this one has just kind of kept us on the hook. So I wanted to kind of unpack what it is about Frosthaven that has made it kind of keep coming back, and also just a reality check to make sure I'm not just subjecting you guys to my madness and my addiction. So I will leave it open. Is there anything that you're struggling with to kind of stay interested or stay engaged, as you get deeper into it? But that was a lot there, but I'll open it up before I kind of share my
It's
jaded opinions.
it's funny, of all the things you listed there, the only thing that I struggle with, and it's mainly my memory, I think, is like remembering the storylines, and
Mm.
partially because we kind of jump around a lot. Like we're like start part of a chain and then we'll go somewhere else, right? But I have a hard time remembering what's happening in each of the different story arcs or the chains. But yeah, like opening up new stuff and like hitting these like little milestones where, oh hey, we get to open up a new sheet, or here's a new whatever, like, oh, we have a new class now, or oh, here's this new building that we have access to, all that kind of fun stuff. Like every time we do that, I'm just like, yes, yes, we're building out our city, this is awesome. We built a new wall. I mean, something as simple as putting that sticker on the wall, right? Like that's fun. um but yeah, of all things, the story is usually the thing that I gravitate towards, and don't care like that. Like let's fight these monsters. Let's open up these new things. Whatever, the story is like last on my mind, for whatever reason. But
Mayor Sather would be so disappointed
I
in
know, right?
you.
But yeah, no, it's fun. I'm really enjoying the and like the puzzle aspect of a lot of the scenarios, like trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do here to like, there's usually some little gimmick or some little something that we're not seeing right away, and then figuring it out and trying to adapt for each scenario, I think is really fun. So
Cool. Yeah, Ty's not going to like me after this because he's getting real time feedback on stuff. So my number one, and you guys know, I mean, I'm not like a fanboy of whatever. I play mostly because you guys play, because I totally enjoy us getting together to play a regular game over and over a thing. I don't, I find things about Frosthaven a little like I think the combat system I always find a little bit over. Like I wish our combats would take 60% of the time that they do, because it just feels a little fiddly, a little right around some of that. That said, again, we've had some really great moments in some of that. But again, I think I've said it, like I play something like Oathsworn and I'm like, I would love, like I could be like Ty is with Oathsworn, right? I'd be like, every time we could get a chance, we could do it around some of that. But I do, again, and it was interesting, like I heard a review, I think it was the whatever it was, where they were talking about Frosthaven versus Gloomhaven, and they actually didn't like Frosthaven because of all the town stuff and whatever.
Oh,
And I think I would not enjoy, like, I don't think we,
yeah.
at Gloomhaven, I would have probably raised a flag and said, no, I'm done. Right. I don't, but because I really think like that really adds so much to the game. And like you said, and that around how, the story and building up things and that side, the only, and again, real-time feedback, like, is I wonder if I think maybe we can figure out how we swap. Like, typically we've gotten to the mode where we fight and then we do our end stuff at late at night. I almost like would love us to kind of flop that every once in a while and do maybe that early, because I think sometimes it doesn't get the attention we need because we're all kind of like, oh, we're finishing up and we're
Fading.
trying to fade out
Yeah.
right that. And again, this is just real time as I thought about, like, oh, maybe we should like every other time try and figure out
Like
how we
save
could
that for the next
save
session.
that to the next session and start with that. And again, we'd probably still finish at the same time, right? Around again, there's sometimes we do some prep, but I think we could still do the prep for some of the next session around some of that. Because I do think sometimes we lose a little bit because it is late and we're trying to, we're kind of fading out, and we don't, like you said, Josh, maybe that's why we don't remember sometimes all of the story stuff that's going on there. But and then I think, again, I think early on for a while, I think because we were struggling to retire characters, I think that at one point I'm like, when are we going to get to
Yeah.
And again, Josh, we finally got you where you're retired on some of that, because I now that we're starting to get some churn in the mix, that is also kind of upped my interest a little bit, because it is, hey, we're getting some new people, we got to learn some new things. Even again, this me having another character, it's fun to kind of learn that too. So I think getting that semi-regular rotation of where you get roll people in and out, and we kind of figured that out, has also improved around some of that stuff too. So so that, yeah, I don't know what that was. That was a mixed review, I feel like, but a lot of, again, a lot of positives, a lot of, yeah.
Sounded like a 3-star review.
3.5. I'll give it 3.5 stars. How's that?
Yeah. So and it's cool because I think we all have fairly different overlap, like our Venn diagram of what we like. There's a lot in the shared circle, that like in the middle of the Venn diagram for all three of us. But we all certainly have, kind of our fringes as well of what we enjoy. Frosthaven for me is it. I don't want to call it the perfect game, because I think I've already called like Dwellings of Eldervale the perfect game. But Frosthaven is like the perfect game for me because it has an evolving story that you're a part of. It has character advancement, which is huge for me. I don't like games where every time you play, you're kind of fresh. Like, and not that I don't like them, but I don't prefer them. Like, I like having the advancement. The town building is phenomenal, and that's the separator for me. Why Frosthaven is so much better than Gloomhaven is because you actually advance the town as you advance the character, and as you bring the buildings in and the things to do. Whereas Gloomhaven, it was very static. The city of Gloomhaven was there, and you would go to places to get quests or to go to the oak tree to donate or whatever, but like it was very static. Great for a computer game, but I don't ever think I would have played the whole campaign as a board game, like we're progressing at the rate we are through Frosthaven.
Yep.
And it's just it has all of these elements that I enjoy, and I think it pulls them together masterfully well. Like, I don't think there were times, sure, where it felt like we were kind of slogging a little bit or getting stuck in like without retirement, or like that happened. But when the pacing changes and you see a retirement and you see what that opens, and you get to introduce a new character and you learn the new character in advance and get the cards, like I played the Trapper probably like 7 times, and I'm going to retire on the 8th time and then move into another. So like the one before that, I probably played 20 times. I don't know the true count, but like the pace changes, and I think there's an ebb and flow to it. The same with the town and the narrative and the quest chains.
Yep. And I love that John, I mean, we can talk John, who's our fourth one. I love that he is so like into the, like he always knows the scenario inside and out. When we walk in, he helps with kind of, here's the strategy for how we should go that. And which I like, cause I'm glad you did the research so I don't have to, right?
Yep.
And then we can go in and just execute whatever the strategy is and like that. So yeah, I mean, he's the other one, I think, besides you, Ty, very much like, has all all the rules, all the stuff, and helps kind of dive that. And again, I love that he loves to do that. That way I don't have to, right?
Yes. And he's got the little app on his phone
Right.
to
He's
like
got
help
the app
track
that
stuff.
he's helping, move stuff around.
And it's great too, because like we have the paper version of tracking stuff, and then John's also tracking stuff on his app, so that like if something gets out of whack somewhere, right, we can kind of like cross-reference stuff, and I think that's really helpful. So yeah, it's been good. I like it. I think we all have our like little roles in how we play this game, and it's really fun.
I think we're about to get really cool stuff too as we use the enhancement now that building's open and we start to modify cards and tailor decks a little bit. That was always, I think, what I enjoyed most about Gloomhaven was the modifying your cards with your gold. And we see that. We now have the trading post. We have like some of the things starting to level up where we can add more into the mix.
It's exciting.
And Troy, I will be mindful of that. Maybe we can have a night, Josh, where me and you call up John and we give Troy a Frosthaven night off.
No, but then I'll be sad because I won't be spending it with you guys. That's my number one motivation.
But yeah, so that was kind of the question about Frosthaven, or questions. We've never really done like a Frosthaven review, and I still think that would be fun to just actually like pull back the covers on the game and kind of, we've talked about a lot of it in different ways, but that's my dream episode is it starts with Frosthaven and then we go into a spoiler heavy book review of the Bloodsworn Saga books.
So can we do and maybe this is our third question, though I want to loop back on the next book in the Bloodsworn Saga trilogy there. I don't know if people, I haven't read anything, whatever. The fact that he called it the Bloodsworn Saga and the Bloodsworn are a thing in there, it makes you wonder, like, does everything end up being central to the Bloodsworn or something like that? Again, very spoiler, hard to beat this, very, very spoiler heavily. So I don't want to say anything, but it just always makes me think why did he name it what he named it? So it was like,
yeah, I think so, but we'll see later this year, right? I think fall.
Right. Is it November? Yeah, October, November. Yeah. I thought I saw the release date is kind of floating out there. So
yeah, the moment's available, I'm going to consume it. I'll probably read it in like 2 days. Give it 5 stars. Might even rate it beforehand. Be like those reviews that are up now where it's like 8 people have given something 5 stars. And it's like, you don't even have an advanced reader copy. Yeah. Stop lying.
So I have to read Hunger soon is what you're saying. The new one's coming out.
Or you could just be like, save yourself the frustration, wait and just time it so you finish it in like October, and then you just roll right into the third book.
There you go.
It'll make you feel better. Unlike the rest of us that are suffering. Yeah.
It's the same thing, man. Lies of Lockamore. I had to talk to Troy about how bad things can happen, and it can be a net plus to the series.
Instead of me just throwing the book across the room.
Yep. All right. You know what, Troy? I figured it out what Oathsworn needs for me to like it more, because I do like it a lot. It needs to have somebody has painted the miniatures for me. And there needs to be a little bit more of building up the warband or the camp or something. A little bit more of that.
Yeah. Well, we'll either clone yourself or we'll do like a hypnotist thing where you forget. We'll like remove that from your brain until we like snap our fingers 3 times or something. And that way you can continue to paint them and not spoil yourself.
Yeah.
You can only use the creative half of your brain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you wear like an eye patch, I think that's how it works. If you put an eye patch on one eye,
they're not going to look very good.
And then, but you won't, that side of your brain won't remember what you painted. And then you flip it and then you'll be okay. Yeah.
Can you imagine that discussion with a commission painter? Listen, I don't know what's in the box, but I know there's somewhere between 20 and 40 miniatures. Some are as big as an AOS size like dragon, and some are like 50 millimeter scale like fighters. And I need it all painted, and I need it done in like batches, and then send me the boxes.
And make sure you put them back into the put them in the right box. Yeah, don't screw it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't show any work in progress photos. I don't want to see any finished photos. I'm going to trust you're going to do a great job. Here's $1,200. Thank you very much.
Yep.
They'd be like, is this guy crazy?
Mm-hmm. He is.
I do like your idea you had though, Ty. Like you should just you could buy it and then sell the complete painted set for like $2,000 on eBay.
Yeah. It continues to be pretty hard to find from what I've seen. I think they're doing another print run, but good stuff. We could at BoDCon we could play Oathsworn.
Yeah.
But you're flying. How are we gonna? Well, you can ship it with one of us that are driving.
I'll send it with flight to St. Louis one way, $119. Just look today. Leaves Milwaukee at 5:30. Gets there at like 6:45. Hang out with Ben until you guys get there.
Sweet.
Cool. Is that the segue to upcoming events?
That is. Yep. That's where I'm going. Look at Troy moving the show forward.
That's a 3.5-star moving forward.
That's a 5-star.
5-star moving forward.
Right.
Who needs a chess clock? Troy Weiss. All right. So we are in summer, almost officially, just about here on the edge of June. Origins, Columbus. I keep saying it would be so great to get back to Origins. It's been a handful of years now. I do like that part of Columbus. I like that convention. One of these times, I just gotta commit, make a plan, and go and see if anyone comes with me. Then in July, us and 7 of our friends and family are headed to. I think we've talked about the Gamers Ranch, right? Like, yeah, we had to have. But the Gamers Ranch, somewhere in the middle of Missouri, to play some board games, run a 5K, play some disc golf, swim, fish, hang out, all the things that you do over 4 days. Swag bags, minis.
They're looking really good too.
Oh man, love it. Then 2 weeks after that, roughly, Gen Con, Indianapolis. Troy, you doing a couple days? Have you decided?
Yeah. Well, I have somewhat of a commitment from my daughter, so it might be a father-daughter Gen Con. We'll see.
Excellent.
I still have time to back out, but she has a badge. I have a badge. We might have a couple events. That's about it. Play a little Pokemon.
There you go. Sounds like a great time. There's a lot of stuff before. Adepticon's next on show notes, but let's be realistic.
What?
We got Dragonfall. We got Holy War, Holy Havoc. We got Gamehole Con. There's a whole cycle. This was a summer.
Midwinter.
This should have been a summer-specific event list, and
No.
Troy went and put Adepticon.
That's because you can just
2025
tell you I might be a little
on
focused
there.
on Adepticon. That's all right. We're
All right. Well,
the BoD is
listener,
going to have a presence at Adepticon. We're got to start now.
it's our home turf. I mean,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. We might even offer like a group like tour of the original BoD site. Could you imagine Sherry's reaction if you bring a shuttle full of people,
A Sprinter van,
just walk them downstairs to show off?
This is where it all
BoD?
began.
Here we go. This is it. You know,
Troy, who are these people and
who
why are
knows?
they in
Yeah.
our house?
Yeah.
You
Sunday
let
night.
Ty and Josh in here often enough. I can't deal with it.
Sunday night, 24 people. Yeah.
On that note, find us wherever, YouTube, like, subscribe. Where do people even get podcasts? The podcast app, Spotify,
Yep.
Apple.
Apple, Spotify, I think still own 80% or more of everything. So
Cool. Don't use Google Play. You don't want to use
it's
Google
gone.
Play.
I believe it's gone. They rolled it into something. I can't remember what they did.
Perfect.
But, yep.
Yeah, don't use Google Play because you won't be able to find us. But yeah, so hope you're liking it. Let us know what you think. Hit us up. We're always out there. I promise I may like or reply to a YouTube comment 8 to 10 weeks after it's posted. But I do appreciate it. Carl, Josh, others, thanks for keeping that going.
Ty will reply to every 5-star, and Troy will reply to every 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, at Playin and Slayin Show. We're not on Instagram yet. Basement of Death is, but Playin and Slayin, I think we need to create the show account. I'm on there, Playin and Slayin Ty, but I don't have a profile or anything. But yeah, that's the gram. basementofdeath.com for all your Space Hulk stuff, your 40K Black Library, Horus Heresy reviews. Have you updated it since we've come to the complete end of the cycle?
I have. All I would say is maybe I have started the post, but I have not.
All right.
But so we're getting close.
Exciting times. Well, guys, thank you for joining me on the 79th voyage of the USS Playin and Slayin. We'll be back for episode 80, the Ocho Cero.
nailed it.
Yeah. Keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.